Chapter 9. The Clinic. My father called the refinery clinic. The doctors there, all from Holland, were the best on the island. They serve 16,000 workers. At 2 o'clock, I heard him repeat. When he placed the phone down, I asked, "Do they have an eye doctor?" Yes. The name of the eye doctor was Boomstra, and he seemed more interested in what had happened on the Cay than in my eyes. Kept asking me how I'd survived. After x-rays were taken and developed, he hummed to himself while examining me, asking me exactly when I thought my sight had begun to fade, asking my mother if she'd seen the blow to my head. She hadn't. It was Timothy who figured out what had glanced off the back of my skull, a piece of timber that had come loose when the lifeboat was launched. It had hung up a while, then fell on me when I was in the water. "How much swelling was there?" Boomstra asked, speaking with a thick Dutch accent. He sounded elderly. I pictured him with white hair, a white mustache, a big nose, and thick glasses. I said there was a big lump for a few days, and I'd had bad headaches. He finally asked all of us if he could speak frankly. He knew how old I was. I wasn't a child. Even before my parents answered, I said yes. He nodded and chose his words carefully. "If you want to see again, I think you face a very serious operation by a neurosurgeon, and there is no guarantee that it will be successful." My mother gasped. "No guarantee?" "The optic nerve is in the back of the head. I believe it was damaged by whatever struck the skull." My heart beat faster. I'd had my tonsils out when I was 8. "You said serious?" "Philip, any operation where the body is invaded has risks." Always to the point, my father asked, "Where would you recommend we take Philip?" "Columbia Presbyterian Hospital in New York. There's a specialist on staff who is world famous for this type of procedure." "Tell us about the operation," my father asked. "I'd rather let an expert explain it." My mother's voice wavered as she asked, "Has he done this before? To a child?" I didn't feel like a child anymore. Dr. Boomster replied, "I don't know, but he is world famous. Lars Pohl." After a silence, my father said, "We need to think and talk about it." Boomster said, "I understand." We thanked him, and a few minutes later were on our way back to Charlotte. As we drove along, all of us thinking of the same thing, the surgeon's knife, my father said, "If Dr. Boomster was right, the final decision will be yours, Philip. We'll both tell you what we think, but it'll be your decision." "We'll get other opinions," my mother interrupted. "Of course," he answered. "Where?" I asked. "Anywhere," my mother said. "And other doctors may not agree with Boomstra. They may have other ideas. It may be just a simple operation. Or I might never see again," I thought. We talked back and forth for days, and then in October made the decision to go to New York. My father called Boomstra, asking him to contact the world-famous neurosurgeon Dr. Pohl. "When will we go?" I asked. "As soon as possible. We'll fly," he said, making it sound like an order. I'd noticed he seemed more forceful since the Hato sinking. He didn't let my mother push him around. This time, she didn't object to flying. She had no desire to end up in the sea again. A while later, after Boomster called back, my father phoned Pan American Airlines and booked a flight for my mother and me the next week. Only 2 seats were available. He'd follow 2 days later. Stu would have to be boarded in a kennel.